Welcome back to Mystara, and get ready to boot some heads, as you've selected by a large margin the Monks of Mystara, though in the setting they are known as Mystics, which makes the Psychic Mystics Scions, which of course don't exist in Mystara because the Glantrians dissected them all, I guess. If you want to know why something isn't Mystara, just assume the Glantrians dissected them. It's easier to explain things that way. Now with the naming conventions out of the way, let's get everybody kung fu fighting. I'm Mr. Welch, and we are looking at the Monks of Mystara. Monks are paradoxically at the same time numerous in the setting, but also not well known. There are several areas that have just as many monks as other common classes, but the mystics stay in those areas so the outside world doesn't know about them except in like bard tales or passing rumors. That means mystic adventurers tend to only be from those areas where the class is common. So if you want your character to be a mystic and you're not from one of those areas, you're going to have to tweak your background to learn where you picked up your martial arts. Monks are found in 3 areas specifically in the known world that have any background written for them, with none mentioned in the Savage Coast, but because Sind is a major source of mystics, that means the Hollow World has mystics, because Sajapur is there, and it's a transplant from Sind. Hool is suggested to have mystics, and it works that the Master would have evil martial artists working as assassins, because all evil warlords need ninja assassins working for them. Tradition and all that. The first of the 3 areas known for its mystics, of course, is Sind, as I've mentioned. Sind gets the most information about their mystics and champions of Mystara. An entire page is devoted to talking about the large selection of mystic orders to top it off. 6 mystic orders are detailed, with the largest being the Keese order. If you want a demi-human or a foreign-born mystic, then you're going to come from the Keese order of mystics normally. The Keese not only accept foreigners and members of other races, they encourage them to join. Still, it's only about 5,000 total in order, and they are the largest order, just as well to give you a sense of how few mystics there are. The rest of the orders tend to be spiritualists or isolationists. They try to avoid the outside world so they can reflect on life mysteries. The Fakir order suggests it was founded in Yalarim, and from the description they have a lot of overlap in the philosophy with the Yalari dervishes, so that gives you an out if you want to play a Yalari mystic, though that's all the information you get for the Fakir. The Shahed are a small order that are devoted to righting wrongs and can be found hunting evil. The only other Sind mystic order that can be commonly found outside the nation is the Jash Parhadans, who by tradition have to travel the world for 10 years before returning to share their wisdom. While they can be found outside of Sind, remember there's not that many of them to begin with. The most obvious source for mystics in Mystara, of course, would be Ochalia, being a strange mix of Chinese and Korean cultures. Unarmed combat is a national pastime, and its military is also expected to be trained in unarmed combat as well as normal weapons. The island has a population in tens of thousands, but they're also rather inclusive. Most normally don't travel outside their own island as they view their culture superior to outsiders. The exception to this is their women. Ochalia is very stratified by gender roles. Women are not allowed to be adventurers or soldiers. When the restrictions become too much to bear, it's not uncommon for Ochalian women to leave for the mainland, sneaking aboard merchant vessels if necessary. For this reason, while Ochalian mystics tend to be more men than women, outside Ochalia, you're going to encounter far more women than men. The Ochalian women will train outsiders. They're already throwing away all their traditions, so that's not a concern for them. If you want to be trained as a mystic and you're not one of the cultures with mystics, that's your best bet for being trained outside of the countries with mystics. The last primary source for mystics is a surprising one, but it's the first location to actually mention them, and that's in the nation of Glantri. In the province of Krandahar, there's a monastery in the secluded city of Lamsa where the mystics try to channel mystical energies through their martial arts training. There's not much available on the city in either the Gazetteer or the box set for Glantri, but it is the first area to mention that mystics train there. It does make sense that it's secluded as the Glantrians are trying to learn new forms of magic. This would cause a stir among the more traditional magic types in Glantri, so they keep to themselves for obvious reasons. The only other source of mystics in Mystara that I could find that's canon is a short blurb from Dragon Magazine 179, talking about the free city of Dunwick between Renardi and Osudria. Dunwick is a mercantile free city with a large religious following. Mystics from Dunwick venture out into other lands to spread their religion, showing that they can defend themselves, but they're unarmed because they come in peace. The mystics in the Princess article were Tortles, but the monastery is by no means restricted to just Tortles. Mystics are viewed more as a curiosity than anything else outside their native lands. You can bet the Thaatian editors trying to put together gladiatorial games are going to try and hire some Ochalians to show off their unique style to the gathered crowd. The American merchants will hire Sind mystics as both entertainers as well as bodyguards for events where weapons would be banned or in poor taste. The Glantrians tolerate the mystics inside their border, and while they would be viewed with suspicion outside their area, they wouldn't be set upon by a mob like a cleric or a dwarf would be. For demi-human mystics, you're going to need to create a backstory why your character is a mystic. It's not unheard of for non-humans to be a mystic. The Dragon article clearly has Tortle mystics showing up to fight, but the mystic nations tend to be human nations. Elves could easily go to Lamsa and Glantri to study the way of the mystic, but dwarves and Hin wouldn't risk their lives traveling that far into a nation that cuts them up for research as standing operating procedure. The best two options are finding an Ocheline and learning from them, or as the Ocheline women don't care about tradition and are out adventuring anyways, or travel to Sind and train at the Keese Mystic Order. Your demi-human would be considered odd by the rest of the race. Hen just don't do fisticuffs, and dwarves would think of you as touched in the head if you gave up your trusty axe for the sake of kicking people. But these aren't stretches of the imagination. The setting has given you an out that's easy to follow through without breaking the immersion of the game world. Now, by a strange coincidence, the 5th edition monk fits smoothly into Mystara without tweaking at all, and at least the monk orders do. You can take the 3 traditions from the player's handbook, just assign them to one of the monk schools like it was designed for. The Way of the 4 Elements is a magic spell-casting monk tradition. That's obviously the Glantrian Mystic Order. The Way of the Open Hand is pure martial arts, allowing you to slot it into either Ocheli or Sind without much effort. The last one is the Way of Shadow, which is all about stealth and subterfuge. That tradition screams to be set in Hool, with the Master's agents and assassins leaping out of the shadows to attack the party at dramatic moments. That would also explain that no matter how well you surround the wizard with party members and allies, the enemy always seems to appear next to him first when putting down the miniatures, because that's always a thing, right? That's going to take care of the monks of Mystara. It's got a lot of information on them, though like a lot of different races or classes, they tend to be geographically isolated. While they aren't restricted to humans, you do have to come up with a reason why a demi-human wants to boot ahead. With the nomadic ways of the Ochelian and some Sin mystics, you can have one appear somewhere, just in case you want to recreate the Karate Kinder on Serene. Next week, I'm adding Sorcerers of Mystara, which is going to be fun since you didn't like the Sports of Mystara. I'm going to take that one down and throw in the Hollow World Apocalypse on the Week of Dread. So until then, remember in the immortal words of Mel the Cook on Alice, as quoted by Ed Gruberman, the best defense is a good offense.